the music.
Yeah, the assless chaps and the goofiness and
Yeah, well, I mean, he comes out and there were times he would come out and he would just stand on the monitors. I mean, people who didn't see Van Halen back in the old days may not realize this, but he'd come out on stage and he would stand there literally for 10 minutes with his arms out in like a Jesus Christ pose and just let people clap and not do anything.
I know.
Wave a sword around or whatever. And all I used to keep saying in my head was I could be hearing 3 more songs.
Yeah, I know. I just missed the original the Roth lineup. I saw him on the Yankee Rose tour, and I saw him with Sammy when they went out and did the Sam and Dave thing. And I saw him with Van Halen, a few years ago. But yeah, but I know exactly what you're saying. Definitely, he's the showman always, but the voice. I mean, we know Sammy's the better singer when you get into the whole Sam and Dave argument, which we won't. But we know he's the better singer, and that's why he doesn't do the Sammy songs. I'm guessing, right? I mean,
no, yeah. I mean, listen. I mean, to me, I really love both versions of the band, and they both have their merits.
Right.
But I think I look at them truly as 2 completely different bands.
Sure.
With Sammy and with Roth. So I don't even look at it. I don't even connect them really. I think of them as completely separate. But no, I don't think in anybody's world, and this is no knock on Roth, but I mean.
Right.
Vocally, I mean, there's no way he could even. I think he's got his hands full singing the stuff he originally sang right now than trying to even attempt to try to sing in the register in the way that Sammy Hagar does, who is really a world-class singer.
Oh, yeah, and a cool guy, too. I had a chance to interview him back in the 1013 album days. He came to town, and unbelievable. Just
awesome guy.
Yeah. So Eddie's playing, of course. He's sober, and it's good, and all that.
Yeah. He played everything note perfect. He was smiling, having fun. I need to stress to people this place that they played last night is tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking even like a club.
Right.
If you have a local club there that holds 500 or something, this is smaller than that.
Wow.
I mean, the name of this place is Cafe Wa because it is the vibe more of a cafe. And when I tell you it is small, I mean, the capacity of the room was 250 people,
wow.
And I'd say maybe there's a little bit more than that. It was, jam-packed. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it is tiny. So the only knock, I mean, Eddie played perfectly. He was happy. He was sharp. He was,
cool.
I was standing maybe 10 feet in front of him the whole time
wow.
during the show. But the thing is that why I mentioned the size of the room is that people have to put that into perspective, because if you think Van Halen, you expect that massive guitar sound
sure.
and that massive in-your-face, over-the-top approach. Mm-hmm. You aren't going to get that in a club or a venue this small coming out of a PA that really is set up for like singer-songwriter showcases.
Right.
So there's not going to get that massive roar coming off of the stage that you want from Van Halen. That's not what this was about. This was about a chance to, see an arena act, with, in a tiny venue in your face. And for that, it was extremely cool, but it was anything but the full-on kind of,
right.
massive Van Halen sound and experience. But from a playing standpoint, they played great.
What was that? What's the story behind this new old song that they dug up? It was like an old demo song or something. And were you aware of that song before? Because that one kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah, it was a demo. I mean, if people who are true, major Van Halen geeks know that there's been a number of, and I mean that positively, of course.
Right, of course.
Dissing people. I mean, it's just there are demos that have been knocking around for a long time from Van Halen, and people will realize if you look at the band's history, a song like House of Pain that didn't surface till 1984
right.
There's actually demos of them doing a version of that riff back in like 76.
Okay, yeah.
And apparently that's the story behind the one song they played new last night, that it was there's origins of it that are the central riff goes back to that period as well that they've, taken and rewritten and turned into this, new, not so new song. Obviously, it's going to be new to 99% of people, but for the people who are the collectors and the bootleg people and stuff, they probably had heard some version of this at some point. I thought what was interesting is that they did only one new song, but it's the song they chose was that, which is not the lead single from the album.
Right. Which supposedly,
I think that they probably knew they were extremely not generous isn't the word, but they didn't pat anybody down for cameras or video or anything. This was an invite media event, and I think they figured, well, you know what? If that's the point, let's let the media come in and go crazy and do our job for us.
Sure.
And let them shoot and take photos or whatever. So to that end, I saw people standing in front of me. I shot some video on my iPhone, but there are people standing in front of me that had full-on HD cameras in their palm and just, flip cams just shooting everything. So there will be no shortage over the next day or two of nonstop stuff on YouTube and videos because everybody in there was shooting. And the band, if you think about it, most bands would be like, well, we don't want to be seen or heard in a tiny place like this. But I think they said, well, listen, we're trying to get some hype going. We got an album coming out. Let them fire away. It's the best publicity we could have.
No doubt. Yeah, no, actually, that was a pretty smart move. Well, we both love Michael Anthony and his high harmonies, and that was such a big part of the sound. How's Wolfie doing?
Wolfie's fine. Wolfie does great for what he does in the band. He does the job just fine. But I would be lying if I said I didn't miss Michael Anthony tremendously.
Absolutely.
And that's not a knock on Wolfgang, but Wolfgang is a kid, obviously. I don't know how old he is now. He's probably 18, 19,
something
20.
Yeah.
And he does a fine job playing the bass and singing when the parts. But to me, it's still very bittersweet to have this reunion and this happening with Roth and having, to me, a huge part of not only the Van Halen sound, but the onstage personality of that corner of the stage gone.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's the thing. There was moments in the show last night where Roth was really talking about the old days and coming up, in Southern California and the clubs they played. And, he would obviously look to Eddie and Alex about that, but you couldn't get any vibe from from Wolfgang about that because he was not even, thought of being conceived. So it's really, there's that, and it's just, like I said, it's just a little bit, there's a certain charm to the fact that it's Eddie's son playing there, and they have these moments together on stage which are really kind of nice.
Sure.
But you think of Van Halen, and there's just this one piece that I don't think people realize. Listen, let's be brutally honest. There's not anybody in the world. There's very, very few people on the planet who are not going to buy a Van Halen ticket because Michael Anthony's not there.
Sure.
I hate to say that, but that's just the brutal reality. We know that with a ton of bands. Bands have their stars, and as long as the stars are in place, most people come along for the ride the rest of the way.
Right.
But I think that again, for people that maybe didn't see this band then, Michael Anthony is an enormous part of the sound, the vocals, and just the stage persona. And I really did, like 07, now I just really missed him. It's not a knock on Wolfie. He does what he does, and he does it fine. It's just there's a big chunk of personality missing from that side of the stage.
Are you from the camp that says that they probably used some Michael Anthony taped vocals or something on their last tour?
Well, whether it was Michael's vocals or whoever's they were, I can tell you this, and I am 100% of the belief that on the last tour they absolutely were bringing in canned backing vocals.
Right.
I saw that show at Madison Square Garden, and I've never heard. There were guys that weren't even really close to the microphone, and you had pitch-perfect, enormous vocals coming out of the PA.
Right.
I think that it was completely to the point that I don't even think that they deny that. I've never seen them deny that they're that. And I'll tell you something else that I thought was really telling about that.
Yeah.
Roth said last night from the stage, he said, Listen, he said, he goes, he said he was more nervous about the gig last night than any gig he'd ever done.
Okay,
because of the family connection, and he said on stage, he goes, the other thing about it, he goes, this is all stripped down and raw and real in your face, man. He goes, you ain't getting any vocals on tape tonight.
Oh, okay.
So he almost copped to it.
Right.
You know, I don't know, if he realized what he was saying or he didn't care, but he copped to it. And you know what? There wasn't anything canned last night, and I thought it sounded great. I mean, I don't like things to be exactly perfect live. It ruins the live experience. I thought that it was perfect the way they did it. The vocals sounded good, but you didn't get the 15 singers every time somebody opened their mouth. You got what was really coming out of the speakers.
Cool. So should we go see Van Halen?
I would absolutely encourage it. I mean, I don't know why people wouldn't want to. Again, in a perfect world, Michael Anthony would be there, but
absolutely.
He's not. So you know that going in. But I think what you're seeing now is a slightly kinder, gentler Van Halen, if you will. and I don't know what the tour is going to be, because obviously the big production is going to be a hell of a lot different than what I saw last night.
Sure, yeah.
But as far as them from a playing standpoint, the key to me, above and beyond everything that we discussed just now, is that Eddie Van Halen is sober. Right. And to the best of my knowledge, he was last night. He was drinking, from a couple cans that were on his gear that were, I thought, interestingly, I noted, were wrapped with tape, so you could not see what the can had in the can. Right. And I'm not going to make an assumption that it was because it was alcohol. It could have just as well easily been that some guys do that so it helps their grip when the can sweats on stage to grab it. Sure, yeah. So I'm not making any assumptions or accusations about that, but he didn't seem, he seemed happy. He wasn't impaired. He played great. That's completely contrary to the tour they did with Hagar when they reunited with him, which was a debacle, and Sammy writes about a lot in his book. And I saw that tour, and for the first half of the set, it seemed like Eddie was playing a different song than the rest of the band.
Yeah, I saw him on that tour, too.
The fact that that's not happening, to see Eddie Van Halen do his thing and hear these great songs, it's amazing.
All right, excellent. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, and we'll watch for that metal show. And I do have, I almost forgot, I have a That Metal Show comment. My girlfriend texted me and says, tell Eddie his lists piss me off.
Really? Which one?
Just, the top five, the TMS top fives. I shouldn't say specifically which one, but every time we watch it, well, how come they didn't include this person? Like, you've never heard that before.
Well, that's kind of the whole point of the segment, I mean,
it works.
It's funny because we can only do five.
Yeah.
People kind of lose track of that. And I'll get, after everyone airs, well, what about? And I'm like, well, maybe that would have been 6 to me.
Right, yeah, no, I know.
The whole point of the bit is to get people screaming like that, so it's working.
It works, absolutely. Yep, that's the thing. All right, Eddie Trunk rocks right here at Rock 101, Sunday nights at 9 o'clock. And thanks again, Ed. And thanks for taking the time. And get out and enjoy the rest of your day, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Scott. Thank you for the time as well, and I'll speak to you soon.
Excellent. All right, let's...